A very good evening, and thanks for clicking on to the Monday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. We certainly have flipped around the upper pattern across the hemisphere. No longer have we got blocking areas of high pressure. We've got low pressure firmly in charge across the north, high pressure across the south, and of course we have a strengthening jet stream. We could see the strongest twin areas of low pressure of the winter so far as we press into later tomorrow and through the day Wednesday and Thursday, as the jet spawns two rapidly deepening areas of low pressure. So looking at the North Atlantic and Europe surface chart of the GFS, and you can see here this is a culprit and feature number one. The second, you can see right at the very edge of the graphic here, that is going to be the troublemaker there really. Yes, we are going to see some very strong winds with this feature here, 70, possibly 80 mile an hour winds through the Hebrides and exposed western coasts of Scotland here. But it's that secondary feature that looks as if it's going to track a little bit further south, and therefore Southern Ireland, Wales and the southern portion of England in particular will be susceptible to the strongest wind gusts in excess of 70 miles an hour, certainly at the coast, but perhaps even inland as well. So we skip through the sequence here. You can see the process as we go forward here. A pretty strong conga line of high pressure here, as you can see, draped across more southerly latitudes now, and of course low pressure near Greenland. Now, the reason why I'm saying about that is that this is going to be key, because while we've got these two areas of low pressure here, this area of low pressure is going to deliver a reinforcing shot of colder air. Now, while we're not going to see exceptionally cold weather down at lower levels across the British Isles, what it is going to do is it's going to cool the mid levels of the atmosphere enough that we're going to see snowfall, perhaps even into the middle mountain areas of Scotland, perhaps the North Pennines as well, over the next several days. And we could see a relatively decent high-level snow cover develop here with this type of situation here. So as we skip through, feature number one comes in. The area of low pressure deepens as it approaches the British Isles here. As you can see here, that system clears out the core of the low at least. Trailing cold front is going to bring wet and windy conditions across all areas of the UK. But notice this second feature here. That is the troublemaker here. You notice here the first feature as well as the second feature deepens quite significantly just off the southeastern portion of Iceland here. What it's doing is you've got a very powerful 200 mile an hour jet roaring across the Atlantic, and what it's doing is bumping up against this wall of high pressure over Scandinavia. So you ram and force the air up against this area of high pressure, another area of high pressure over Greenland, and of course you force the center of low pressure to deepen naturally. So you're going to see a very significant 1 and 2 areas of low pressure here over the Atlantic. This first feature, by the way, is going to have the biggest and strongest impacts, I think, for Iceland, perhaps even for Norway as well, as that front pushes through. But that second feature here, as you can see here coming in on the backside, notice here the centre of that low pushes in to the British Isles here, so the core of strongest winds on the southern flank of this low here. But you notice here how the areas, the two areas almost merge together. So we've got kind of two twin centres here within the one vortex, which is quite interesting here. But once that secondary feature pushes through, then we'll start to open the gates to colder Greenland origin air. Now, of course, it's crossing over the North Atlantic. It isn't going to have the same level of chill once it reaches the British Isles. But what it is going to do, like I say, is going to bring some fairly hefty snow showers, say above 2,500 feet. We also find ourselves in a distinct and brisk westerly airflow big contrast in pressure between the North Atlantic and up towards Greenland here, also just the north of Scotland. So of course you squeeze the isobars together, and of course you've got a very, very strong westerly airflow, rattling heavy showers, hail, rain, even some sleet down to low levels, snow to high levels, and it is a raw mid portion of March. That's probably the best way to describe it here. You can see here as we look at the 850 temperatures, which I don't actually have, unfortunately. Let's look at the snowfall here, and you can see here as we skip through the loop that the model is seeing upper level snowfall even across the southern uplands, like I said, the North Pennines, the west and central highlands of Scotland here. Down at low levels, I don't really expect anything, folks, to be honest with you. I think the lowest levels of the atmosphere are just a little bit too warm. We've got an increasingly strong sun at this time of the year as well. So the air mass is simply just not cold enough to be able to kind of compensate for that strong incoming solar radiation at this time of the year. But so yeah, it is going to be a fairly unsettled theme over the next, during the second half of this work week. Of course, things go downhill pretty quickly, I think, during the course of tomorrow here. And after we get all this unsettled conditions, high pressure does eventually try to move in. So as we skip through the loop once again, you can see here this area of high pressure to the south eventually starts to make inroads and build into the British Isles. Now, one thing I will say is this much, and remember I said to you about how it's going to be interesting to see with this cold water here to the west of the UK, how much warmth we get as we go through the second half of March here. So certainly the GFS ensemble flips around with the, and I've basically not got any internet connection, so I'm not going to bother starting the video again, but it's going to be interesting here to see exactly what level of warmth we can get as we go forward here. But there is still a fair amount of cold air within the mid-latitude pattern. There's just not really much in the way of fresh cold air getting drained south from the Arctic here, so we're kind of seeing areas of low pressure that's basically rattling across in a west to east flow, and it's basically kind of throwing the cold air that's already in place around. So quite a messy picture, that's for sure. That's it for today. Hope you have a great day. Back in the next couple of days with more. Bye for now.